All right, today I want to talk about balancing the extremes and dialing back the crazy. Before we embark on today's journey, I just want to point out the background today is Paektu Mountain in North Korea, overlooking Heaven Lake. And it's the border between North Korea and China. And I thought someone sent me a video recently about a comedian who went to North Korea and he's traveling around the world trying to make kids smile. And I thought, that's a wonderful thing. And I thought, one day I would like to go to North Korea, not to be political at all, to step back from the politics and just visit some nature, some scenery. I think, that's one way of building bridges, visiting a country and seeing just some of the natural beauty that they have to offer without getting all political and oh, this and this and that and that. And, Heaven's Lake looks beautiful. Looks a lot like Garibaldi Lake. It's an alpine lake. You have to hike up high to get to it. And it's amazing how many people do that hike, Garibaldi Lake. It's a steep, long hike, and a lot of people do it. But it's beautiful. And right beside it is Black Tusk. Hike up Black Tusk. But so today I want to talk about, balancing the extremes. I want to talk about where we were, where we're going, and where we want to be, because those are three different things. And I think a lot of times, now with Trump's trade war with the world, he's just offending and insulting everybody on the planet, and he's just building this nationalistic army of zombies that blindly endorse everything he does. And and like I said before, before the left had obsessed over Donald Trump for stupid things, and they just their hatred, it was just obsessive and unhealthy. And but now he's really doing some really offensive things, trade wars with Canada, trade war with basically the world, and he's just like he's become this egomaniac, but also this selfish kid that's just stomping his feet and saying, the trade deficit says everyone in the world has been ripping us off. And it's just like in a kid, I was raised in the United Church. We used to go volunteer at Paradise Valley Seniors Camp, and there was this one song, hymn, whatever they used to sing, and it says, "Love is like a magic penny. Hold it tight, and you ain't got any. Lend it, spend it, give it away, and you'll always have more." And it's like this protectionism, there's good and bad in this trade war thing. The good is the fact that historically, like NAFTA, TILMA, all these trade agreements had nothing to do with free trade. And they had secret clauses in them which gave up our sovereignty. The Chapter 11 compensation awards in NAFTA, that was insane. There was a company that was dumping toxic waste in Canada from the States. And Canada said, no, that's against our environmental regulations. And then this company sued the Canadian government for damages because they made a law which restricted their ability to make a profit. And they won, which was insane. In a sovereign nation, we have a right to say, look, we don't want you dumping toxic chemicals on our soil. We have a right to say that. But NAFTA Chapter 11 was this globalist confusion that said if you make a law that inhibits our ability to make a profit, that law is illegal. And that was ridiculous. So Trump shattering all those trade agreements was a good thing, because those compensation awards and those secret clauses that took away our sovereignty were bad. But now, the protectionism, the tariffs are taxes. Taxes are not a good thing. Rand Paul understands this. Rand Paul says, tariffs are a good bargaining chip, but in practice, they're bad because they raise the price of goods. And that's what happens. You put I don't softwood. We have virtually no softwood industry anymore because all these freaking forest fires or whatever. And if we have softwood, we can sell it to China or Japan. We don't have to sell it to the United States. They're not the only country on the planet. But if you raise the price of tariffs on everything like softwood lumber, then building houses becomes more expensive in the United States because Canadians don't pay the tariffs, American consumers do. And I gave this analogy before about when I did that taste test for Guinness Zero. Um, Guinness is made in Ireland and it's imported to Canada. If I don't want to put tariffs on that because it's going to make it more expensive for me, right? Free trade in a free market. Okay. Sometimes the word free trade is abused, okay, because they use free trade and they throw all these stupid little clauses that dial back your sovereignty and your civil liberty. But free market, free market, they talk about free market capitalism. I don't care about capitalism, communism. I care about a free market. I care about civil liberty being protected by law. If you go too far to the left, they crush civil liberty. And if you go too far to the right, they crush civil liberty. That's why I'm a moderate. I avoid the left extreme and the right extreme. And if we look at where we were, under Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, it was crazy. We had Antifa riots. We had Antifa. What is Antifa? Antifa are anti-fascists. Well, we're all anti-fascists, but Antifa built the Berlin Wall to keep the Western fascists out. But well, wait a minute. In the West, in the war, the West fought Hitler. Hitler was the fascist. So Antifa built the Berlin Wall saying, we're trying to keep the Western fascists out. Well, the West fought the fascists. So that founding premise was a lie. We see that a lot in communism. Now, I realize there's different brands of communism. I'm not going to get that into that. So I'm talking about, James Connolly, and Nelson Mandela, who was part socialist, part nationalist. Um, James Connolly gave his life for the Irish Proclamation, which guaranteed protected civil liberty by law. That's what I believe in, protecting civil liberty by law. That's what in Ireland they call it an Irish Republican. You believe in a republic, a free republic. Now I know a lot of times some communist countries use the word republic. They're not a republic. There's no elections. There's no democracy. There's no nothing. Anyways, I don't want to argue about politics. I simply want to say that every country has good and bad. And diplomacy means we reach out and build bridges. One of the good things I think Trump did in the past was he reached out and he visited Kim Jong Un in North Korea, the demilitarized zone, and in my opinion, that was a good thing. The CIA, in my opinion, are a secret society that killed JFK for vetoing Operation Northwoods. They're the war machines that created this completely unnecessary war in Ukraine that's created devastation, havoc, and laundered billions of tax dollars. And it's gone to oligarchs and to laundered through FTX into Joe Biden's midterms. There's just so much corruption. In the corruption, it was Joe Biden's son. It was all these on both sides. So Nancy Pelosi, all these Mitt Romney spook, all these bipartisan corruptions all have their little hands in the cookie jar in Ukraine. And that provoked conflict was completely unnecessary. So one of the good things that Donald Trump has said, he said that, okay, the Ukraine conflict, how do we solve this? Well, I'm okay with Ukraine not joining NATO. That's an end to the war because that's why the war started, you know? So now Elon Musk has said that he supports the United States withdrawing from NATO and withdrawing from the United Nations. I support both of those things because NATO has become NATO expansionism. RFK did a very factual video about BlackRock and the Ukraine war and the war profiteering. And it was all about making monies for selling bombs and enslaving the people you're helping because you lend them money and then tie a chain around their neck for the money they owe you. So you get Trump wants mineral rights. RFK talked about farming, all kinds of things. But BlackRock is not a good organization. And the war profiteering, they have no interest in civil liberty, protecting freedom. They're part of the globalists that want to Globalism is another word for communism, and NATO and the UN. The UN New World Order, that's globalism. New World Order, that was a phrase coined by George Bush. George Bush was a globalist. George Bush's father was a globalist. George Bush's father got the CIA addicted to drug trafficking in Vietnam. I've had other podcasts and blog posts about the CIA's drug trafficking network, which is extensive. Bo Gritz, Terry Reid, Gary Webb. It's all documented, right? So where we were was this leftist extremism of insanity, which was driven by the fake news, which was controlled by the intelligence community. CSIS or the CIA send out press, or MI6, Operation Mass Appeal. They send out press releases, and the media just prints whatever they tell them. And in Operation Mass Appeal, MI6 were sending out press releases to the media saying that, oh, Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. And then David Kelly, the British weapons instructor in Iraq, said, no, they don't. You're lying. And then after he testified to a congressional hearing, or the equivalent of in England, he died of a suspicious suicide in the forest. Dr. David Kelly, he was a weapons instructor, and he was a whistleblower on MI6 lies. So MI6, CIA, CSIS, they're all part of the Five Eyes, and they all lie. And they don't support freedom. They don't support the free world. They support globalism. They support the UN's New World Order. So now Elon Musk says, I think we should pull out of the UN. Well, I agree with that. I think that's a good thing. Years ago, Ezra Taft Benson, he was an American patriot who he wasn't just a religious leader, he was also a U.S. politician, Minister of Agriculture, I believe it was. And it was funny because he hosted Khrushchev when he came and visited, and Ezra Taft Benson was better dead than red, and he probably wasn't the most diplomatic person to give Khrushchev a tour of the United States. And the two of them got in a big ideological argument, and I think President Nelson is much more diplomatic, but no one can dispute Ezra Taft Benson's sincerity and his honesty and his valor. Okay, so Ezra Taft Benson said that the UN was a communist organization and the United States should withdraw from it. Now, he said that a long time ago. And when he said that, I thought that was a little bit of extreme. I mean, Canada has participated in almost all UN peacekeeping missions on the planet. But now we've seen something change or something be revealed. The UN now has come up with this new world order, which, George Bush talked about. The United Nations New World Order is a one world communist government. That's not a good thing. So if the United Nations keeps cramming this UN New World Order down our throats, then we need to withdraw from the United Nations. NATO expansion caused the unnecessary conflict in Ukraine. So we should withdraw from NATO. Okay, because we see all these organizations that were well intended, have good intentions, they're being corrupted and taken over and hijacked by this globalist agenda. And we see globalism on the left and we see globalism on the right. We need to balance the extremes. People like Mitt Romney, Mitch McConnell, George Bush Jr., Sr., they're bad people, just like the Clintons, just like the Bidens, they're bad people. So we need to balance the extremes. The corruption is nothing new. Wherever there's good, there's opposition to it. So now we have to move forward. So, okay, so Elon Musk, he's done some good things. He's done some bad things. He's not perfect. No one's perfect. And I think that's really important because recently on my blog, I quoted some Democrat senator who said something about tariffs, and what he said was really true. Then we have these Trump zombies that just blindly endorse everything and anything Donald Trump says and says you're not allowed to disagree with anything Donald Trump says. He said, well, you quoted that Democratic senator, so that means you must be fruitcake. And it's like, for God's sakes, listen to the words coming out of his mouth. We have to be able to debate issues. Okay. Elected officials are there for a reason. Whenever one government gets power, there has to be a royal opposition. Why? Because power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. We always need an opposition to say, hey, wait a minute, that's good, but what about this, this, and this? Because you're missing this. And these guys over here don't want to talk about that. They want to steamroll over their own agenda. That's why you need an opposition to say, hey, wait a minute, what about this? And that all this Democrat senator is saying that tariffs will increase the cost of things we buy. Just like fuel costs. Trump gets the fuel cost thing. You cut back domestic production of oil, and gas prices at the pump rise. Why? Because Saudi has a monopoly and they can raise it as much as they want. So cutting back domestic supply of energy, of oil, is a bad idea. You know, Making energy affordable is a good idea. Donald Trump understands this. But it's the same thing with tariffs. Tariffs are taxes. Now we're going to all have this big parade about taxes and tariffs, and you're just shooting yourself in the foot. Now, obviously, we're going to say, okay, we'll see how that works out for you. But I don't think we should waste our time with the tit for tat thing. Donald Trump wants to tariff something, go ahead. We'll sell our stuff somewhere else. All the food that comes into Canada, I don't want to tariff that because that means I'm going to have to pay more for food, and food is already too expensive because of Justin Trudeau's insanity. Okay, so we went from Justin Trudeau's insanity, which raised inflation and the cost of living. Now we have Donald Trump's insanity, which is doing the same thing. This is just another World Economic Forum trap. And Justin Trudeau is just eager just to dive in head first. Oh yeah, Trump's bad. Trump's bad. Let's stick it to the man. We'll put tariffs on all American products. That's stupid. He's an idiot. He's not thinking it out because he doesn't care. He does. Justin Trudeau wants to drive up inflation because he wants to collapse our system so they can have a great reset. You know, uh, Justin Trudeau knows that if he does all these counter tariffs, that means food is going to be more expensive for Canadians, and we're already up to here in taxes and cost of food, and now because of his energy costs for the price of gas, so now he's going to put tariffs to make that higher. Justin Trudeau is an idiot, and we need to slam that door and say good riddance. And Mark Carney is just as bad. Mark Carney is going to just jump on that bandwagon, and we're going to go, you know, cutting back domestic production of oil and raising gas prices creates mass inflation because everything we buy in the store is transported there by trucks. So Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney fell for the energy trap. Now, Donald Trump, Justin Trudeau, and Mark Carney are falling for the tariff trap. They're just going to keep driving up. This is what the World Economic Forum wants. They want to drive up inflation, drive up inflation. Why? So that you become dependent on the government, so that you'll own nothing, but you'll be happy because they'll tell you to be happy because they'll own everything, So oil monopolies, rise in fuel costs, that was a globalist trap. These tariffs are a globalist trap. So we just need to be smart and not fall for that insanity. Okay, so Elon Musk says we should pull out of the UN. I agree with that. Elon Musk says we should pull out of NATO. I agree with that. Now, I don't agree with everything that Elon Musk says. Okay, and I think it's so important. Like when I was with the trade union, I got involved in the local executive and went to regional different things. And one of the mentors, one of my mentors, was very intelligent. He was a grievance officer. He knew the contract inside and out, and he could debate any lawyer, any clause of the contract, and just make them look like fools. And that's what he did on a regular basis. It was a hobby for him. And in the union, it was very political. There was one political party and another political party. And one time we were at a regional convention, and one of the people that was in the opposing political party said something that I agreed with, but they also said something I disagreed with. So when it was my turn to speak on the issue, I said, okay, this person said something that I agree with. I agree with that thing that person said, but I disagree with this thing that that person said. And then when I sat down, my mentor scolded me. He said, you don't ever agree with anything the enemy says. They're the enemy. You always belittle them. You always humiliate them. You always make them look stupid. And that was his system. That was his MO. And it worked for him when he was arguing grievances against the corporation in front of an arbitrator. But when you're debating an issues, you have to be able to realize that there's more than one party on the planet. Some people have good ideas, some people have bad ideas, and we have to get out of this partisan blindness. And if another party has a good idea, we can say, that's a good idea. That's okay to say that. And if we can't say that, then we're fools. You know, one of the big problems before was that the people that hated Trump said, you can't agree with anything he says. And I was in a position where some things Trump says I agree with, and something he says I disagree with. But they said, no, you can't agree with anything he says. Now we have the Trump zombies. They say, no, you can't disagree with anything that Trump says. Trump's trade war with Canada, stupid, offensive. Closest neighbor, closest ally. You just burnt the bridge. You just pissed off the whole country. You know, and you have a handful of Trump zombies on X thinking, oh, yeah, we get the Constitution, we get guns, 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 and guns, but they don't see the big picture. You know, they don't see what's happening in Portland and California and in New York City. You know, the, there's good and bad in the United States, just like there's good and bad in Canada. You know, we're a sovereign nation and we have that right to retain our distinct society, you know, our sovereignty. We have a right to do that. You know, so Trump mocking us, challenging the world because the world owes him because they just have given money to everyone. It's just, you know, pride cometh before the fall. Trump's just he's gone too far. He's done a lot of good things. He's just gone too far. You know, I don't support Trump at all anymore. But having said that, I can say now that okay, I don't support Trump. But if Trump says something I agree with, I'm still able to say I don't support Trump, but I agree with what he said there. For example, Ukraine. Okay, I don't like the WWF uh, publicity stunt he pulled by humiliating him on TV and stuff like that. I mean, Zelensky's a sleazeball. You know, he's just making so much money off of this war he doesn't want to settle, and he provoked the conflict by having a coup, by bombing the Donbas, and by hiring Nazis to ethnically cleanse the Ukraine of all Russian speaking citizens. They created a conflict that was unnecessary. You know, Zelensky is a bad person, but Zelensky is a puppet for the CIA. You know, the CIA organized the coup against the Russian president of the Ukraine. The pres there was a Ukrainian of Russian ethnicity who was elected, and the CIA led a coup against him. It was all about joining the European Union and joining NATO. You know, putting nuclear missiles on Russia's border. That's what Cuba did. That's what the Cold War was about. That's what NATO did. NATO caused that war because they wanted Ukraine to join NATO and put nuclear missiles on on their border so that war could have easily been avoided. So, anyways, having said that, there's some things that Elon Musk does that I disagree with. Okay, for example, Twitter. Before Elon Musk bought Twitter, Twitter was a garbage dump of toxic fake news, just like Facebook. Okay, Facebook, YouTube, Google, YouTube, they just censor true information that if you oppose the UN's New World Order or the World Economic Forum's New World Order, then YouTube would censor you and demonetize you. And same thing with Twitter. The fake fact checkers were just political partisan trash. It was ridiculous. And Elon Musk put an end to that, and he brought free speech back. However, having said that, you know, I created an X account for my Google account because I wanted to follow the dirty news in Surrey. He's a local blogger who does what I do, and he's kind of a young guy. He's taken over like kind of the crime beat, and I'm kind of passing the torch on to him, and I'm moving on to political things. But I keep following his news, and I'll report and link to something he writes about local shootings or gang stuff because that's kind of his thing now, and I've kind of passed that torch on. Anyways, I created an X account so I could follow him and see what's going on Twitter. And every day in my feed, I get this stupid brainwash nonsense about Canada 51st state, Canada 51st state, Canada 50th, and I keep hitting ignore, hit ignore, and I keep getting slammed with or flooded with Elon Musk and Donald Trump's political opinion. Okay. So now we've gone from one extreme to the other, but it's a little bit different because Elon Musk isn't censoring other opinions. He's just flooding me with his political opinion. So I guess it's better. I guess I don't know. Yeah, we just need to find the balance, the extreme. Now, another thing Elon Musk is doing is he's Tesla, the cobalt for the car batteries, laptops. We just, it's barely in the news, but Rwanda has supplied a mercenary army to invade, cross the border, and invade the cobalt mines in in Congo. And this is all cobalt is what they use to make rechargeable batteries for laptops, iPhones, and electric cars. And there's a huge amount of exploitation in the cobalt mines. They pay slave labor, they have child labor. It's insane. Well, Dan Gedler is this rich billionaire, happens to be Israeli, and he made his fortune off blood diamonds in the Congo. He has two companies, one in the Congo and one in Canada, a shell company, that are sanctioned because his fortune was made from blood diamonds, conflict diamonds in the Congo. So he's gone from conflict diamonds to conflict cobalt, and he's made billions of dollars from the cobalt industry. Well, all of a sudden, Congo had an election, they had a new president, and the new president isn't giving Dan Getler exclusive rights anymore. And the new president of Congo had to kick out the former director of Mossad because Mossad was planning a coup in the Congo because they want their buddy Dan Getler to have exclusive rights to all the conflicted cobalt. And the new president of Congo kicked the former director of Mossad out of the country. So what happens? Mossad launches a mercenary army to invade Congo to take over the cobalt mines. Dan Getler is sanctioned. First, Donald Trump sanctioned him because that he was a Dan Getler's cobalt is conflicted. Then he lifted the sanction, and then Joe Biden put the sanction back on. So Donald Trump was the first one that sanctioned the guy. Then he took the sanctions off, and Joe Biden put it back on. Well, while the sanctions were still on, Elon Musk was using a shell company in Switzerland to do business with Dan Getler. Okay. And whether or not he's sanctioned or not, the exploitation in the cobalt mines is horrific. The fact that he's making billions of dollars from child labor and slave labor after making billions of diamonds for billions of dollars from blood diamonds, that's inherently evil. So it doesn't matter if he's sanctioned, he's not, you know, um, Elon Musk doing business with the guy that's bad. That's not good. So some things Elon Musk does I agree with, and something he says I don't agree with. So when Elon Musk says we should pull out of the UN and NATO, I agree with that. But I guess the main thing that I just want to emphasize today is we have blind zombies on both sides, and I'm already sick of it. Before you couldn't say anything good about Donald Trump. Now you can't say anything bad about Donald Trump. And it's like we need to steer a course between the minefield of crazies. Mental health is a big issue today, and we see extremism on the left and extremism on the right. Donald Trump threatening to invade Greenland, take Greenland by military force. That's no different than China threatening to take Taiwan. It's insane. And if a Trump zombie can't see that or admit that, then they're a zombie, just like the left zombies, you know. And my daughter used to joke about the zombie apocalypse. She said, I think they're going to put bath salts in the water. That drug that people take, this drug called bath salts, and it makes people turn into zombies or whatever. And I said, where do people get that zombie apocalypse from? I don't think that's in the scriptures. I think that's on, there's a lot of TV zombie movies out there. I think that's fiction. But a lot of bad things are going to happen, but I don't know about the zombies. But in a metaphorical sense, we're seeing the zombie apocalypse right now. We have the Biden zombies, we have the Trump zombies, and it's just time we find a balance. Where there is no justice, there will be no peace. And if you can't find balance, you won't find peace. So let's move forward. Let's navigate. We've seen where we were, we've seen where we're going, and we can see where we want to be. We want a free republic where the Constitution protects civil liberty by law, and we want a free market. You talk about free market capitalism. We want a free market. We want low taxes. We want small government. We don't want government in your face telling you what to do about everything. We want small government, low taxes, and lots of freedom. Civil liberty protected by law. Protect the U.S. Constitution and the Canadian Charter of Rights. Some things Donald Trump says I agree with, some I don't. And if you can't say you're not allowed to agree with anything that Donald Trump says, then you're a zombie. And if you say you're not allowed to disagree with anything Trump says, you're a zombie. I'm going to walk my own path. Peace.